friends, welcome back to She's At It Again. I'm going to be making a peaches and cream pie, and this has been a favorite of ours for years. I'm going to replace the conventional cane sugar with coconut sugar, so really and truly this has no refined sugars in it. There's not even any honey in it, so go with me as we make a peaches and cream pie. All right, we're over here at the stovetop, and I'm just going to start adding ingredients to this so you can see what they are. This is my coconut sugar, and I have a half a cup of that. In here I have a tablespoon and a half of just organic all-purpose flour. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of tapioca starch. Now this is just a replacement for cornstarch. I have a dinner guest coming over tomorrow. Tomorrow's Easter and we're having several people over, but one of our guests is allergic to cornstarch, and so a very simple replacement for that is tapioca starch. Just going to give that a little whisk. I don't want any chunks of coconut sugar to be in there. I made a French silk pie yesterday and replaced the cane sugar with coconut sugar, and let me tell you, that was fabulous. I haven't eaten it yet. That's one of our desserts for tomorrow along with this. But I did taste it. You know, somebody has to lick the spatula after it's all said and done. Everything's in the crust, and you're going to wash some dishes, so you may as well just help that process along by licking the spatula. That was really good. All right, next thing we want is just 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and this is my salt. And this recipe calls for an egg, but here's what I'm going to do. I've got this jar full of egg yolks where I made a couple of angel food cakes for a baby shower the other day. So I've got all these egg yolks left, so I'm just going to use that. That's really the part of the egg that helps this thicken anyway. The whites really don't do a whole lot, but sometimes you'll find recipes that, like this for instance, we're basically making a base for like a pudding. This is a replacement for, in the old recipe that when I first got this called for a package of instant pudding mix. So instead of that, we're just making ours from scratch. But normally when you see a homemade pudding, it will call for egg yolks and not necessarily whole eggs, but I do whole eggs in mine. I'm not afraid of it getting all funky with the whites in there. Okay, to this we're going to add 1 1/4 cups of whole milk. Here's the part where you turn your burner on. We're just going to stir it to get out all those lumps, but once it starts thickening, once it heats up and it starts thickening and activates the flour and the cornstarch or the tapioca starch in our case, then the lumps will pretty much go away. Okay, I can feel this starting to get thick. You can see it's kind of clumping up on my whisk. And the mixture is incredibly smooth. There's no lumps or anything left in it that I can see. I like to make sure I scrape into that very corner of the pan down there. Sometimes the ingredients kind of hide and they don't get stirred up with the rest of it. Okay, you can see it just almost instantly gets thick, and you can tell that it's thick. All right, I'm going to turn my burner off. Still has residual heat coming off of it, of course. I'm going to slide it over just a little bit. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And yes, this is an infant medicine dropper because I have found that it measures accurately and I'm not as likely to spill it as I would if I were using just a spoon. All right, just 2 teaspoons of butter is also what we're going to add. And I just cut that off the stick of butter. So 2 teaspoons, not 2 tablespoons, but 2 teaspoons. Although this looks like butterscotch, it's actually vanilla pudding from scratch. But it's that dark just because of the coconut sugar. Which, that's okay. You can turn the lights out and serve it, and it'll be fine. Unless somebody's just really freaked out about the darker color and they think it's butterscotch, you should be okay. I'm kind of getting used to the darkness of it since I started using a lot of coconut sugar. All right, we're going to let this set aside and cool, and we'll go make the other components to this. It's kind of a layered thing, but some of the things you mix together. So let's get started on some whipped cream. All right, I have a very cold bowl here, and I'm just using my 4-cup Pyrex container, just a measuring cup, but it is very cold. And then we're going to get 1 cup of heavy cream. And we're going to whip this up to where it becomes 2 cups of whipped cream. I'm trying to keep my hands off the bowl and as much as I can, just because the more I touch it, the more it heats up. All right, let's get this whipped up. All right, we have it to the frothy point. We're going to add another 1/2 cup of coconut sugar. Now, this just replaces conventional sugar. If you're fine with conventional sugar, then by all means use that if you want to. This is going to make it darker, but still pretty much the same flavor, and I would say a better choice as far as health aspects. So let's whip this up until it's stiff now. All right, that didn't take long. We're going to put this back in the fridge just to keep it cold. Next thing we're going to do is whip up some cream cheese, and I have it out here in the sunroom, coming to room temperature. And the doggies have to follow me. All right, let's get a light turned on. This is our 8 ounces of cream cheese. And we're going to put our whisk attachment on there. We're just going to beat this until it gets nice and smooth. You may have to push this down from the side. Seems like the solid pieces want to come up the sides of the bowl when you're beating it. Now if you're using a hand mixer, this is easy to resolve. Just move your hand mixer around. But with a stand mixer, you got your challenges, but sometimes they're worth it. That's why I have 2 hand mixers. Maybe I should have done both in that. Get as much off that whisk as I can. All right, now we're going to get our cream back out. And I'm also going to get my pie crust out of the refrigerator because I have it in there chilling. Since this is going to be a refrigerated pie, I wanted to make sure everything was cold. Oops, I've got escaped cream cheese here. Okay, this is our pie crust. This is what we made yesterday. We're going to put a link to the pastry recipe that I always use. Well, I say always. For most of my sweet pies like this, I use this particular recipe because it has butter and sour cream in it. And it's very easy to work with. And tutorial is in the video. Easy, easy. I just didn't want to just repeat making a pie crust each time I made a pie, which kind of sounds silly. It is a cooking video, but I just figure who wants to watch me make a pie crust over and over and over again when really we're just focusing on the different kind of pie itself. Okay, so we have our cream cheese in here. We're going to take half of the whipped cream and sugar, coconut sugar, and put it in here, just half of it. We're going to fold this together. The whole purpose for folding is just to try to not deflate something you just tried incorporating air into, which was our whipped cream. But with this mixture, it's really not that big of a deal. If you give it a vigorous stirring, it should be fine. And it's okay if there's streaks of cream cheese in it too. All right, we're going to put this down as our first layer on our pie. And for those of you who are wondering if coconut sugar tastes like coconut, it does not to me. It has a wonderful flavor to it, has great taste to it. It doesn't, I would say in a blind taste test, I don't know that I could tell the difference in the two, but it's just that coconut sugar is not refined. It's not as processed as cane sugar. I don't think it's as inflammatory to your body as cane sugar. I could be wrong about that, but I don't feel as yucky when I eat the coconut sugar as I do when I eat cane sugar. I will say that, but that's just me. I shouldn't say don't feel as yucky. Sometimes I feel yucky with the sugar, but I don't feel yucky when I eat coconut sugar. All right, we're just going to smooth this down. All right, next thing we're going to add is peach slices. And I think I might need a cutting board for that. And I've already opened up the can of peach slices. These are just yellow, clean, sliced peaches. I opened it up and drained some of the juice off of it because that's what you're supposed to do, is drain the juice off of it. Now, there's still a little bit left in there. But you can chop these up in as big or small pieces as you want. We're just going to place them on top of the pie. You can use fresh peaches with this. You can use frozen peaches if you thaw them with this. I've used fresh peaches before, and as much as I love, love, love a fresh, juicy peach, for some reason, the canned peaches actually taste better in this pie. I cannot explain that. I'm not sure why that is, but which is fine because that means I can make this year round. I don't have to depend on there to be fresh peaches to make it with. But if you have fresh peaches and you want to use fresh peaches, they're great. But for some reason, the canned peaches are just better. Okay, this part's actually going to be covered up with another layer, so it doesn't really necessarily have to be pretty as far as fanning the peach slices out or making them arranged in a certain way. You're not going to see them. I'm trying to get these out with there being juice in there, but it's not that easy. Good thing I have small hands. Should have put it in a colander and drained them. They'd have been drained a lot better, but I didn't. Now, like I said, tomorrow is Easter. I made a French silk pie. I made this peaches and cream pie, and that's going to be our dessert. I'll also have fresh fruit on the table for those who just want something without all the hoo-hoo to it, all the sugar and the cream and stuff. But it is that time of year we start thinking more of the refrigerated pies and the things we can make with summer produce. So I'd love to hear about your favorite pies. If you have something you want to share, put in the comments. I'm always open for new recipes. All right, let me go empty this can out. All right, I have to keep referring back to my recipe. I haven't made this in so long, and there's obviously steps to it because you have layers in it, but I didn't want to miss something. Okay, our pudding is still kind of hot. So what I'm going to do is put our cold stuff back in the fridge. I'm going to let this chill a little bit, and then when I turn the camera back on, I will have gotten it back out of the refrigerator. But I just don't want to put the hot pudding in with the cold whipped cream because they'll have a fight and nobody will come out the winner. So we'll be right back. All right, obviously we're back. All right, here's my pan of the homemade pudding. Look how dark it is. Normally I'd go, ew, but I know how good this is, so I'm not going to say ew at all. All right, we're going to take the rest of this whipped cream that we have, except for just a few tablespoons of it, to use as a little dollop on the top of our pie. So most of this, going to mix it with our pudding. Now, back in the day when I first got this recipe, like I said, this called for a box of instant pudding, and you were going to use 1 cup of milk with it instead of, I guess, 2 cups that it takes to make the pudding, so it makes it a little extra thick. But since then, I've revised the recipe, make my own pudding. I'm trying to think of what else. I guess that was the only thing I left out. Oh, there's a bug flying around in here. Do not get in my pie, bug. That's what happens when you leave the sunroom door open and somebody goes outside. All right, so this is the next layer to our pie. Put it right on the top. I will say that the tapioca starch gives it a little bit more of a jelly texture than the cornstarch does, but that doesn't bother me, and none of my guests are going to know any difference because I don't know of any of them that have ever had this pie before at my house. So it's not going to be that big of a deal. All right, this will set up and be a little bit firmer, and I'm going to get a different spatula to that little topping on with. Now, if you want to reserve some of the peaches from the can of peaches that you opened to put on the top of this, that's great. It kind of tells people what the pie is, but since I'm going to be sitting right there at the dinner table with them, if somebody has a question, that is peach. That's peaches and cream pie. There's no question as to what this is. Somebody asked me earlier this week, a friend of ours who always contacts us on Monday, what can I pray for you about this week? And I said, we're having a lot of people over for Easter, and I want to be more focused on the fellowship than I am about the presentation. And he said, I'll be happy to pray about that. So that's what we're more focused on now. And this is what we're looking at. You could put some kind of edible leaves or whatever you want on the top of this, but just like this, I'm telling you, this is so good. This is one of those summertime pies that transitions into wintertime or springtime just beautifully. So, all right, recipe in the description as always, and give this crust a try. This, you just can't beat this crust. I'm telling you, I'm a crust connoisseur, self-proclaimed crust connoisseur, and you can't beat this one. So I hope you enjoy it. We look forward to sharing something again with you real soon. Give this a try, recipe in the description, like I said. See ya.